All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Junlin, and I'm a student from Wenzhou-Kean University in China. So the topic of my presentation today is a descriptive study investigation of plagiarism among undergraduates in a Sino-US Cooperative University. So in today's presentation, I will firstly introduce the background information of my study. Then I will talk about the purpose of this study. The methods used in this study will be mentioned later in my presentation. The results of this study and the conclusion of results will be given as well. Lastly, I will offer some recommendations and suggestions based on the results. So now let's get started. So what is plagiarism? According to the University of Oxford, plagiarism is presenting someone else's work or ideas as your own with or without their consent by incorporating it into your work without full acknowledgement. All published and unpublished material, whether in manuscript, printed, or electronic form, is covered under this definition. And plagiarism is especially prevalent among higher educational institutions. A study found that 68% of undergraduates and 43% of graduate students surveyed admit to plagiarizing on examinations or in written work. And this is also true at Wenzhou-Kean University. I've heard more than once that some students were caught committing plagiarism and be punished afterwards. So there was a need for me to conduct research on this sensitive and triggering topic. The aim of this study is to investigate the reasons for undergraduates at Wenzhou-Kean University committing plagiarism. The study also investigated attitudinal and behavioral gender differences for plagiarism. In terms of methodology, quantitative methodology approach was applied in the study. Descriptive design was used in the study to determine the reasons for WKU students committing plagiarism. An online questionnaire with 4-point Likert items was used to collect quantitative data in the study. Likert items in the online questionnaire range from 1, strongly disagree, to 4, strongly agree. Simple random sampling was used in the study, which means each student had the same possibility to be selected by chance. The level of significance used for each test is set at 0.05. This was applied to determine the gender differences. Firstly, let's take a look at the demographic profile of my participants. There were totally 102 undergraduate students from 4 different year levels and 13 different majors participated in my study. More than half of them were females. Let's take a look at the results of my research questions. So the first research question is that what are some reasons for WKU undergraduate students to commit plagiarism? This part is divided into technology and the COVID-19 pandemic. From the data, we can see most students agreed that it is easy for them to access to new technologies and use multiple resources, and even they can have an easy access to the translation software online. And it is worth noting that many students disagree with this statement that I don't know how to cite the sources from internet properly. So this indicated that WKU undergrad students were confident with their skills in citing external sources in their academic essays. So generally, WKU undergraduate students agree that technology and internet is a possible reason for plagiarism, and the mean is 3.1. This finding is consistent with previous studies that found internet and technology provide convenience for copying. However, students' responses on how to cite resources from internet properly do not support the findings from previous ones that conducted in 2017 that indicated students do not know how to cite properly. And the second reason for plagiarism is the COVID-19 pandemic. Figure 5 presents how the COVID-19 pandemic affects students' study. All the respondents agree that they took online courses during the COVID-19 pandemic. Among them, more than 90% of them had experienced in online exams during this period. It is clear to see that this pandemic has changed the way on how students learn. For those students who have taken online exams, their opinions on online exams were also collected, as Table 4 shows. Students agree that with using additional materials such as notes to help them with online exams is easy. However, they disagree with asking peers for help in online exams is easy. So the finding of this study shows that the COVID-19 pandemic has huge influence on students' learning and testing situation. Similarly, previous findings conducted by other researchers also found out a great number of students took online exams during summer semester 2020, and students had a number of different dishonest behaviors. Prior research conducted that the shift from on-site exams to online tests during the COVID-19 pandemic have threat to the academic integrity. The finding of my study shows that students plagiarize easily during the COVID-19 because examinations were moved from on-site to online. Students should try their best not to plagiarize during the online exams, because testing is a way to examine students' learning progress. And the third research question is that, are there any significant gender differences among WKU undergrad students in terms of their attitudes toward plagiarism? So as the table 5 shows, the respondents' different attitudes toward plagiarism by gender. Most students disagree with the statement that they wouldn't feel guilty when copying some sentences from previous work. And students know different types of plagiarism, and plagiarism is against their ethical value. Overall, both males and female students have high level of understanding plagiarism. Table 6 shows the result of t-text, which was performed to investigate the difference between WKU undergrad students' gender and their attitudes toward plagiarism, and the p-value of the WKU undergrad students' gender in relation to their attitudes toward plagiarism, it's 0.307, which is greater than the significant set as 0.05. So, which means there is no significant difference in the attitudes toward plagiarism among WKU students by gender. Thus, the null hypothesis, there is no significant difference in plagiarism between male and female students, is terribly accepted. And this finding also reveals that female and male students have similar attitudes toward plagiarism, which are consistent with other research and studies. Table 7 shows the different behaviors toward plagiarism by gender. So most students agree that they will copy sentences from other essays to inspire their writings, and they will admit their plagiarism act if they are caught. And the t-test was performed to investigate the difference between WKU students' gender and their behaviors towards plagiarism. And table 8 shows the p-value of the WKU undergraduate students' gender in relation to their behaviors toward plagiarism is 0.190, which is also greater than 0.05. So we can conclude that there is no significant difference in the behaviors toward plagiarism among WKU undergraduate students by gender. And the findings of in my study are not consistent with other similar studies that showed male and females have different behaviors toward plagiarism. Previous findings showed that female students are more likely to deny plagiarizing intentionally, while male students committed the plagiarism honestly when they are caught. And here comes the conclusion. The rapid development of internet and technology and the COVID-19 pandemic caused plagiarism problem. Especially the COVID-19 pandemic, which has become a new factor in causing plagiarism recently. The result of the test of the t-text of significant gender difference showed that there is no difference among WKU students, both in attitudes and behaviors toward plagiarism by gender. So some suggestions are given based on the findings. They're divided into different roles, educational institutions, students, and instructors. So for educational institutions, they're expected to provide more face-to-face courses and on-site exams to students as the COVID-19 situation turns well. Besides, they should introduce the specific consequences such as the penalties of plagiarism to students. And educational institutions are also expected to use new solutions for plagiarism, such as utilizing plagiarism tracking system to check whether students plagiarize or not. So for college students, they need to be aware of the seriousness of plagiarism and try not to commit plagiarism. Students should establish correct and ethical values, such as plagiarize to get high GPA is unethical. Moreover, college students should improve their paraphrasing skills to avoid plagiarism. They need to paraphrase others' idea in their own words with proper citations instead of copying. So for instructors, they should change the way of assessing students' academic ability. For instance, take-home essays could be changed to time essay during class to avoid students committing plagiarism. And in online courses, instructors should offer help in students' learning as much as possible. So this is the end of my presentation, and this is the references page. Thank you for listening. And this is my contact address. You can contact me.